This video is proudly sponsored by Clearwater Technology, Ireland's market-leading water treatment chemical supplier. 17 years ago, no one heard of the name Tesla. Yet today, it seems embedded in everybody's mind. Everybody knows what a Tesla is, right? Since they opened, they not just changed the rules, they just operated by an entirely different rule book. So in this video, I'm going to look at how Tesla has ruined the car industry. In 1997, two men met for the first time and decided to open a new business. Martin Ebenhard and Mark Tarpening played a board game called Magic the Gathering, and in a session of that, they thought of an idea of creating an e-reader. E-readers were really new at the time. There wasn't any of them on the market. This is before Amazon. This is before PayPal and all these kind of things even existed. But they took a lithium-ion battery and put it into an e-reader called a Nouveau reader. And they sold 20,000 of them, which was pretty good for the time. But then they sold their stake in the company for $183 million. With that much money in the bank, the two lads could literally invest in pretty much anything they wanted to. But by the year 2000, Mark got a divorce, which kind of, I suppose, would trigger a guy to, splash out on a sort of midlife crisis car. But they were very environmentally friendly focused, and they wanted to have a sports car that was electric. But at that time, nothing existed. In 2003, Martin and Mark got back together and decided to make an electric sports car called the Roadster. Now, the problem existed is two things. Neither of them had ever made a car before, and making cars is really expensive. And if you don't believe me, have a listen to Mr. Dyson and his £500 million mistake. So this lack of knowledge about the car industry wasn't really going to put them off because, they didn't know any of the rules, so they just go for it. They had met a company called AC Propulsion a little while before. They brought out a car called a T0, which had an electric motor, which was pretty decent. They also got in touch with another little company in the UK called Lotus, who brought out a car called the Elise, which is a two-seat sports car, very lightweight construction. A decent car company like Lotus making a two-seat Roadster already. You take the motor from AC Propulsion, you put in your own lithium-ion batteries. What could go wrong? Well, you see, by 2004, they'd already hit a bit of a roadblock because, cars cost a lot of money to make. So they needed a serious cash injection. Enter player number 3.
There are 62 McLarens in the world, and I will own one of them.
Elon Musk invested a few $1 million into Tesla at first. It went on to be 70 million in the end, but he got that money by selling PayPal to eBay. He didn't create PayPal, he kind of bought it up in a complicated, convoluted sort of way, but Musk knew his way around these kind of ventures. He also knew his way around a number of other things. He had created and designed a video game at the age of 13 and sold it for $500. This is a man who now, at the moment, is pushing himself to be Tony Stark or Iron Man.
When he was doing Iron Man 1, some mutual friends said that, told Downey that I was the closest thing in real life to Iron Man, and so we had lunch. I gave him a tour of the rocket factory, gave him a ride in the Tesla. He actually put the Tesla in Iron Man 1, and then when it came to Iron Man 2, him and Jon Favreau invited me in for a little cameo.
But there is one hero in all this that nobody actually talks about. Where did he get the name Tesla from? Nikola Tesla, born on the 10th of July 1856 in the mountains of Simjan in the Austrian Empire, which is the modern-day Croatia. He came to the United States in 1884 and briefly worked with Thomas Edison before the two parted ways. Thomas Edison heard so much about this Tesla character, he wanted to bring him to New York to work there. It wasn't long before the two actually kind of fell out, and it seems to be about bonuses that weren't paid. And this was the problem, this was the thing. Thomas Edison had a habit of promising bonuses to people, and then they'd fulfill the task and the bonus wouldn't really come through all that often. It's said that Thomas Edison was actually really difficult to work for. He sold several patent rights, including those to his AC machinery, to George Westinghouse. Throughout his career, Tesla discovered and designed and developed ideas for a number of important inventions. Most of those inventions, including dynamos, electrical generators similar to batteries, and induction motors. Tesla's actually most famous for inventing AC current, which is the way that you could move electricity about the place. He's the godfather behind the entire thing. Edison wanted to do DC technology. It's kind of weird how the two worked together and then made two opposite technologies to each other. It didn't take long for a man called George Westinghouse to take interest in Tesla and start giving him some serious money. Tesla's AC system soon caught the attention of American engineer and businessman George Westinghouse, who was seeking a solution to supplying the nation with long-distance power. Westinghouse gave Tesla $60,000 to go make this AC thing work. Sounds good, but Edison on the far side was creating DC and making that work, so the two now were in direct competition. Edison became a little bit nasty about it. He created a negative press around AC in an attempt to sink it as quick as he possibly could. In the late 19th century, Tesla patented the Tesla coil, which laid the foundation for wireless technology and is still in radio technology today. Tesla himself used the coil to study fluorescence, X-rays, radio wireless power and electromagnetism in the Earth and its atmosphere. Free energy. By 1900, he had become obsessed with this free energy idea, so much so that massive companies like JP Morgan gave him a fortune to find out how to make this electricity, this energy, transportable around the world for nothing, for free. This was his whole dream. Tesla created a massive transmission site on Long Island. The investment level was gigantic in this. There was no going back from where he was, but the problem was there was other big names involved in this wireless transmission of energy and the wireless transmission of radio signals. One of them was Marconi. Marconi was getting money from Edison. Up until this point in history, people had believed that you couldn't send a radio signal any further than the curvature of the Earth. It would just be lost. But Marconi set out to prove that you could bounce it off the ionosphere, and he sent a message, the letter S, 2,000 miles from Cornwall in England to Newfoundland in Canada. He managed to do all this research because Edison had funded it just to disprove what Tesla was trying to do in the States. The Wardenclyffe site that Tesla had created had to lay off all its staff in 1906 as people became very doubtful that this could ever happen, that you could wirelessly transmit electricity around the world for free. It seemed fantastical, and of course Edison and Marconi and others around the background, they'd done such reputational damage that by 1915 the site had gone into foreclosure, and 2 years later the entire place was broken up and sold off for scrap. Following the closure of the free energy, his whole dream was collapsed. He had a nervous breakdown. Tesla didn't deal well with that kind of pressure. He worked on for a bit as a consultant, but he actually came under the scrutiny of the FBI for a while after he said he was going to invent a death ray. Largely, he can be found in the parks of New York City, feeding the pigeons. Many of Tesla's inventions were patented by other people. The vast majority of what he had invented was gone, and he made no money from it. So on January the 7th, 1943, at the age of 86, he passed away in New York City, where he had lived for nearly 60 years. He died of coronary thrombosis. He was poor and totally reclusive.
I think global warming is a very serious issue, and it's something that we have to address, and the only way to address that is to come up with a car that doesn't add carbon emissions to the environment, and I think the way to do that is with electric vehicle. Once Musk got involved, there was quite a change of attitude in the Tesla group. They were quite aggressive all of a sudden, but
Notwithstanding that, in 2006 they unveiled a Roadster. Everybody was very happy with that. The things that weren't happy about was a $102,000 price tag. And this is a car that's based on the Elise that you can have on your driveway in the US for 42 grand. The price just seemed a bit too much to take. Now, there was another problem. This car was selling really well, but not a single one had been driven. Not a single one had actually been made or rolled off a production line anywhere. And this was the first departure for car companies worldwide. To sell a car, I mean really actually sell a car that no one's driven. It was actually another 2 years before they developed one that people could actually drive. This is the first time in marketing that a new car company, the first new car company long in decades, was suddenly selling cars on the promise of what they could do. Not what they were, not what they were able to, not what people said to her, or people like me, like journalists looking at it going, wow, I really like that car. None of that. This was simply a promise that a car could deliver so much more. It sold in numbers, amazingly. Then something else happened, something nobody really expected. Elon Musk had pulled a lot of support for himself, for his own ideals, and he didn't feel that the job was being done properly by Martin. And so in the autumn of 2007, Elon Musk made a phone call to essentially sack the managing director of Tesla. So now Musk was in charge. Now Martin and Mark had to take a back seat. They had been essentially demoted. They weren't fired, but they were demoted into different positions. So much so that they had to leave. There was just nothing for them to do. Martin actually took a court case against Elon Musk because at that point Elon Musk started to write them out of history. He started to behave as if Tesla was invented by him and not by the two lads. But Mr. Musk's mettle was about to be tested far more than he ever expected.
The budgetary adjustments we plan for the coming 4 years are large, but if we postpone them, even bigger and more wrenching adjustments will be needed at a later date. Our proposed budgetary measures have been laid out in considerable detail to give certainty to households and to firms so that they can plan for the future.
€6 billion in savings was unveiled in a matter of minutes, in what is only the first tranche of brutal cuts to hit Ireland, and no one, it seemed, escaped the pain.
This again, the financial crisis was interrupting everything in the world, and in 2008 Elon Musk laid off 25% of the Tesla employees worldwide and instantaneously went after the government to get an investment from them, a loan essentially from the US government of $500 million to stay afloat. But in 2008 the Tesla Roadster was actually selling well, and Tesla had done it again, that same thing of not actually producing a car but promising a car. They had announced Model S, and so investment was, well, kind of flahuluk. That was, of course, until it started to get a lot of world attention. That world attention came with a small, pokey UK show who was about to test two of their Roadsters. That show? Top Gear. The man testing them, Jeremy Clarkson.
God almighty! Wave goodbye to dial-up and say hello to the world of broadband motoring!
Clarkson gave it a kicking. He knew what he was doing. As a journalist, I know how to kick a car to death, and so does Jeremy Clarkson very well. But he was helped by James May with this one phrase:
battery-powered electric cars will soon die altogether.
See, in that same episode was the Honda Clarity, which was the hydrogen-powered car that was going to revolutionise the world. It was 2008. It's 2020 now, and I still haven't seen one.
Although Tesla say it'll do 200 miles, we worked out that on our track it would run out after just 55 miles. Oh, I don't believe this. The motor's overheating and I've got reduced power. Only to find that while it was being charged, its brakes had broken.
Clarkson's claimed that the brakes just broke, and that in Dunsfold there was only a 13 amp plug to charge up from. Elon Musk was not a happy puppy.
I think, well, Clarkson's show is much more about entertainment than it is about truth. And I think most people realize that, but not everyone. Like his two pet peeves are American cars and electric cars, and we're an American electric car, so we're in the worst possible situation for someone like Clarkson.
Elon Musk took Top Gear and BBC to court. What he claimed was, they damaged the reputation of the company and that it cost them 200 roadsters, and the Model S wouldn't sell well, and all that kind of reputational damage stuff that goes well in the US. It dragged on. He actually spent a lot of money dragging it through the claims court, the appeals court, and so on. The case actually dragged on well into 2011. Elon had hired a top QC, he had hired the top liable experts of London, and still he lost the case. He had to pay £100,000 in damages to the BBC. This proved to be another tipping point within the industry, because up until this point, every car company that got featured in Top Gear would either improve sales or be killed by Top Gear. Every time Clarkson mentioned a car, it would sell more. But now suddenly a car company who he was really kicking had taken it to court. And it kind of made a lot of journalists quite nervous, not just to drive Teslas, but to drive other cars. It made other car companies go, we could take people to court if they just don't like our car.
Tesla Motors. It is up. It priced above the range, so 20% more.
In 2010, another rule was broken. Tesla went public. No other car company had done that since Ford did it in 1956. It's a long time coming. They raised $210 million to invest, but actually only had one car, the Roadster. That was it. But there was a lot of promise. And that's still what's been hinged on today, promise. Still, by 2013, they were starting to run out of money. $226 million just got washed away in the production of another car, the Model S. They were running into so many problems. To make a car is one of the hardest things on earth to do. These guys just needed to fire money at it. So much money, they nearly signed a deal with Google over cars, which would have made $11 billion.
Scary moments for the car's owner. The first time the battery caught fire, and no one expected it to happen again.
As KPIX5's Kit Doe reports, everybody's still trying to figure out what's behind this and how to fix it.
In 2013, there was 3 fires in the Model S. People were saying these battery-powered cars are very dangerous. Yet all 3 owners said it was okay, they got out okay, all worked, and they've all bought Teslas ever since. September, November 2015, they brought out the Model X. Model X had doors that went up, Falcon Wing style, played music. The doors could open and close by themselves. This was something we're all looking at going, it's like a spaceship landed from Venus or something. And yet none of us could figure out why the other car companies hadn't done it already. Why this car made no sense, and yet all of the Hollywood greats bought it like that. It featured in numerous YouTube videos over the last few years, and yet Tesla, and again breaking with convention, don't have brand ambassadors. They don't have people they pay to talk about their cars. The people you see talking about their cars are just fanboys. It's just people who go, wow, this is great, I love it. That kind of brand loyalty can't really be bought. Everyone else is trying to do it. You look at how many car companies now are trying to exclusively sell their electric offering online. You look at how many car companies out there are now scrambling to make electric cars. You look at how many car companies have dumped out the old people, the people at the top that held it down. BMW got left in the dust with electric cars. Volkswagen are scrambling with the ID3, ID4 and all the rest of the range. Skoda, Audi, Seat, Peugeot, Citroën, Opel, they all hung about and did nothing about electric cars. Tesla find themselves in a very unique position. They have broken, not just broken rules, they just disposed of a rule book and went after it the way they wanted to do it. Not thinking about convention, not asking permissions, not doing anything. It's that disruptive technology that will bring us into the next century. But the caveat to that is the unemployment level that kind of disruption causes, while every other car company tries to catch up, will be catastrophic. The doing away of petrol and diesel engine cars, fine, if that's the way you want to go, but putting all your eggs into one basket never really works out, no matter how well you look at it, no matter how well the economy works out in that respect. You can't just put everything in on top of batteries and go, that's the solution, end of story. Elon Musk and Tesla don't have all of the answers, they just don't. Yes, they have SpaceX, they have little satellites that pass through the sky at night time that's ruining the vision of the night sky, but they've got everything, and I think it's so far widespread that really what they want to be is battery manufacturers who happen to make the odd car here and there. I don't think they really want to scale up to the level of Volkswagen or someone to start making that many cars per year. It just wouldn't work out, I don't think. What's the future hold? Definitely battery, probably a little bit of hydrogen, probably a little bit of something else that will come along, some long-range battery, as GM puts out the latest press release saying, we've made a car that will do 1,000,000 kilometers. Well, that's just a press release. They haven't made any cars. There's no car with that battery in it yet. If Tesla could keep Elon Musk in check and stop him tweeting some wild things, I think it might actually work out for him in the future. I think the price of Tesla stock is too high. Who tweets that? Whatever happens in the next decade, it's going to be vastly more exciting than this decade. I really think we're at the cutting edge of something really unique to happen, not just within the car industry, but the grand transport industries around that too. I think it's coming at us, and it's coming at us very quickly as well. And it's coming right around the corner of people like me in the journalism and you guys for the consumers. We need choice in the market. Right now, there just isn't enough players in the electric car market. There just isn't. It's no good saying Tesla are the best. We actually need choices in the car industry. It's coming, but it's always just around the corner, you know. It's always, the promise is always a little bit weird. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this kind of thing, then hit the subscribe button, because that will force me to make more of these documentaries. Other ones have appeared up there in a little card at the top, like is diesel really dead and who actually killed the electric engine. There's many more of these documentaries to make, so please, if you can, support the channel in some way. The best way of doing that is subscribe, but there is a list of links down below for PayPal, Patreon and so on. You can join me every Sunday on the Sunday service, which is a 2-hour live stream that happens right here on this channel at 2 p.m. Irish time. So join in for that one as well if you want to. Anyway, whatever happens, thank you for watching this far into it, and until the next time, I will see you on the far side.